Hello everyone, happy Venus Day, Friday here. Gonna wait a moment as people start showing up. This is going to be about an hour-long workshop. So if you're catching this now or on the replay, just cozy up, have a cup of tea, and maybe bring a notepad or just get ready to receive. This is gonna be a lot of fun. Let me know when you get here, either now or on the replay. Hey Amanda, yay! And this is going to be a lot of fun. I know this is called a workshop. We are talking about Saturn, so we do have to work a little bit. But ultimately, my intention is for this to be a play shop, noting it is the day of Venus, the day of the goddess. And Saturn and Venus, as I'm going to talk about later on, they actually are extremely compatible because Saturn brings the structure, sort of the masculine energy, if you will, and Venus brings the play, the expression, the Shakti, the feminine energy. And so I hope this is really dynamic and really fun for you. And of course, feel free to drop any non-chart related questions into this workshop, either now or on the replay, and I'd be happy to ask. I'm going to do my best in reading the comments, and actually that reminds me to pull up Facebook on my computer. I'm glad to hear people can hear me, so audio is working. We're out of the retrograde cycles. How's everyone feeling since the Chinese New Year? That was Sunday this past week, last week in January. I feel like we have finally started the new year. All the planets are direct. Uranus went direct on Sunday, and it's almost like, now we can begin anew. However, this has been such a transformative week with Venus moving in the sign with Saturn in early degrees Aquarius. I'm going to be speaking from a sidereal lens, so you may have been hearing other tropical movements of Venus or the other planets, but I'm speaking from the sidereal zodiac, which is essentially when you look up into the sky, into the heavens, if you will. That is the placement of the planets with the constellations. And so it's been a really powerful week of bringing a union of play, of love into form and function, of Venus and Saturn being together. Now, with that, there could have been difficulties with understanding how you are actually just being yourself and being embodied, being the authentic you, as Venus wants you to be yourself and enjoy yourself in the company of like-minded people. So there may have been some restrictions, there may have been some pressure this week that felt like you couldn't be your authentic self. And we're going to talk about why that may be, especially from the lens of Saturn, and ways in which we can lift up the energy in your auric body, as this is my intention with all of my workshops and my master classes, my client sessions, from my Jyotish astrology, Vedic astrology, higher self catalyst readings, to my subconscious breakthrough sessions, to my 8-week one-on-one mystic business coaching and higher self catalyst packages that I do with my clients. It's to clear up energetic blocks that are preventing you from fully showing up for yourself, for your ambitions, and for your dharma. But we're really going to talk about your ambitions, because Saturn is the karaka, or the planet that really represents ambition, as it rules the 10th house and the 11th house. So we're not going to feel ashamed today. We're not going to feel small. We're not going to pretend that we don't have large and grandiose ambitions. No, we are going to expand them, and we're going to clear anything in the way of us really being in our power and going after whatever that unique, ambitious thing is, or quality, or exciting thing that you want to be doing, putting your life force, your prana into, and really accelerating in this one precious lifetime. I'm seeing so many people jump on. Let me scroll back up. Hey Phil, Grand Rising from Kauai. Hello from Portland. Oh, I love it when you tell me where you are on the map. That's so great. This is very Aquarius. We're just mapping the network. And Jenny Marie, hello. Oh, Colleen, great that you're here. Aaron, nope, we're just getting started, excuse me. Oh, thanks everyone. Oh, I love having familiar faces. Hello, Danielle from Canada. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I'm making sure I'm going to be able to see the comments, so I'm finishing up looking on my computer for my Facebook. Being real diligent here, real Saturnian here. Okay, fabulous. So, before we get started, I'd love to share about a personal story I had experiencing Saturn. And before I do that, actually, I'd love to take it back to just basically this new energy. I talked about the new energy of this past week, but the new energy of the next 2 or 2.5 years as Saturn moved from sidereal Capricorn into sidereal Aquarius on January 18th this month. Jacqueline's in Portland, Yasmin's in Portugal, yay, Kellyanne, and oh, you're in Ireland, Kellyanne, oh, so glad you're there and home. Rosemary, Saskatchewan, I believe that's Canada. Beautiful, welcome Rosemary. So let's start with the nature of Aquarius. And so Aquarius is an air sign. Aquarius is a funky air sign, might I add. It's the last air sign of the 3 air signs. So we have Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. And when you're learning astrology and when you're applying astrology, either for yourself or when you're looking at charts, you want to look at how things are layered and culminating through the horoscope and through the zodiac of the 12 signs. So Aries is the first sign, which is a fire sign. The last sign is Pisces, which is a water sign. And side note, the zodiac, the 12 zodiacal signs that we know, are from essentially Persia. And the Persians and the Indians had some sort of exchange hundreds of years ago, and slowly Indian and Hindu Vedic culture adapted the 12 Rashis or the 12 signs and integrated that to their already withstanding lunar-based zodiac called the nakshatras, which is actually where I emphasize in my one-on-one coaching, because the 27 nakshatras are magical, absolutely magical. And if you don't know your moon sign nakshatra, highly recommend you look that up right now. Just look up nakshatra moon sign into Google, put in your birth data, and get your moon sign and start contemplating and start bringing the symbology, the mythology, the archetype, the characteristics into your field, because there is more than the 12 zodiacal signs, my loves, and this is the dynamic essence of Jyotish or Vedic astrology. So, off my tangent there, Aquarius, the air sign, the last of the air sign, funky, individualistic, but very much connected to collective ideas, wanting to be part of a futuristic idea, futuristic new era, a new eon, a new renaissance, if you will. And renaissance means to rebirth. Aquarians very much are interested in rebirthing new societies, new humanities, and being on the forefront of innovation. So everything from technology to ways in which we are using communication patterns, ChatGPT, if anyone's been using AI, or ways in which you can really integrate virtual reality into your life in a beneficial way, this is Aquarian energy. Aquarian also rules breath and prana, actually, as this has to do with the 2 symbols of Aquarius, more in the Western tradition, the 2 squiggly lines. That means symbols of breath. And some say it's the Ida and the Pingala in yogic breath terminology. So not only is Aquarian just breathing in new air and releasing the past, but it's also breathing in new ideas and releasing old ideas. The symbol of Aquarius, truly, this is a funky, strange, complex sign because it rules air, it rules thought, but it also has to do with water. The symbol, the archetype of Aquarius is a woman, typically a maiden or a priestess, if you will, that's holding 2 pots of water, or kumbhas they're called in Sanskrit. And these 2 pots of waters, very similar to the star archetype in the tarot. And I actually just pulled this card for a dear client today. It was very auspicious and synchronistic. But essentially, Aquarius is a water bearer who has this contained knowledge in the pots and is basically moving the wisdom, moving the life force, moving the prana, moving the water, moving the subconscious energy, and really being, again, engaged with duality because of the 2 pots, the 2 squiggly lines, the Aquarian nature of looking at the past to look forward into the future. of being able to choose what is going to be cultivated, integrated. Aquarians truly want to heal and bring healing to the masses. So if you have any Aquarian placements, you may really align with what I'm talking about right here, because not only do Aquarians and Aquarius in general want to bring healing, but it also wants to bring stability. It also wants to bring electric change, as I like to say. It's a very, very just potent sign for transformation, and that's why I'm so excited to talk about Saturn now in Aquarius, because this transformative energy that we're getting hits from already since January 18th, it's a very diligent transformative energy. It's a very hard knocks type of transformative energy. It's a very sobering transformative energy. And so Saturn loves actually being in Aquarius. It's in its Mula Trikona sign, which means it's in its happy place. Saturn in Capricorn is in its Ucha, or its domicile place. And so it's very happy, or excuse me, yes, I said that right. Or actually, I believe I said that right. Swal or Ucha. Anyway, so when Saturn is in Aquarius, it's very happy. It's very happy to do the hard work. And so if there's any parts of you right now that are feeling not happy to do the hard work, that are wanting to roll your eyes at AI, that are wanting to just slap your computer down and say, done with it. I'm so sick of this. All this hard work I've been putting in, it's not turning out. My dreams, my hopes, my desires, these things aren't manifesting. Stick with it. This is a permission to stick with it and to continuously expand your idea of what it is that you're doing and how you can be helped, because networks and ways in which you can use innovative technology and really lean on your networks, not just be these rugged, individualistic soulpreneurs, which is the opposite of Aquarius. It's more Leo, more about running my own show, doing my own thing, just me doing workshops, not going on summits. I'm just doing my own thing, keeping my head down. I don't want to reach out. I don't want to bridge connections, any of that type of small ego energy. It's time to dissolve it, and it's time to move into that Aquarius energy that's all about connecting forces, connecting dynamic, beautiful forces. One of the esoteric principles of Aquarius in Vedic astrology is that it rules striking imagery, like a thunderstorm or literally a lightning bolt. And so connecting to the dynamic energies that are in your field, even if that just means receiving them from a cultivated state of awareness presence, being in your own body, being in your own stillness. That is part of this nuance of Saturn really being able to show up in its work. It's that you have a place of cultivation, of self-cultivation, of stillness, of good habits, good morning habits to good evening habits, being disciplined throughout the day, so that those downloads of electric information and new ways in which you can pivot your business, that no coach, no mentor, no six-figure mastermind, whatever, would be able to offer you. Because this is the direct insight of having Aquarius be connected into your subconscious, as we're doing today, essentially. When we're studying astrology and we're studying the signs, even if we don't have planets in the Aquarius chapter, if you will, of our birth chart or the Aquarius house, we are still connected to that archetype. It's still part of us. So knowing when you can really trust that, and when you can really stay in the game with what you want by being diligent and disciplined, very Saturnian characteristics, so that you can be the innovator, that you can excel as the rebellious disruptor, the rebellious one, the unconventional one, the unborn one, the way shower. These are all archetypes of Aquarius. And so as I speak throughout this transmission today, I want you to connect to 1 or 3 innovators that really inspire you. They do not have to be in your field. They do not have to be online entrepreneurs. They do not have to be Tony Robbins. They do not have to be way showers in whatever industry you're in. They can be any people. They can be Renaissance people from the 19th century. They can be, who knows, pick a character, pick someone. Maybe it's your neighbor. I don't know. But pick 1 to 3 people that you can begin to invoke and understand an Aquarian archetype, because those people start to inform us, and all auras inform us. That's why one of the reasons I love coaching and this mentorship world that we're a part of, most of us on this transmission today is that we're affecting each other's aura, and we're getting the codes and the insights from each other, even if it's without words. It's just being in the presence of people who have different karmic placements of their planets, and we soak that up, for better or for worse, however. So with that said, I'm going to check who else is coming on here. This is so affirming. Oh, you're welcome, Colleen. Meadow. Oh, yay. Hey, Meadow. Hey, Kay. Kay's on board. Yay. Okay, so how I met Saturn. This is just to give you inspiration to the more that you work with the planets and the archetypes, the more they will show up in spooky, wild ways. And that correspondence of as above, so below will give you so much inspiration and so much recognition that what you're doing is essentially aligned. And those messages from spirit in the forms of astrological archetypes and symbology are things that I cannot even begin to describe the potency and the transformative effect they've had on my life. And so the first one that I'm going to share today, maybe the only one today, is how I first saw Saturn with its rings from my naked eye. You can see Saturn without its rings, but you actually need a telescope to see Saturn with its rings. And I saw Saturn with its rings when I was in Bend, Oregon. There's an extraordinary telescope there. And I was there after a 4-day intensive with my Hellenistic astrology teacher, Demetra George. And we all went to the telescopes at the dark night, and I said, oh, this is Saturn, let me go see Saturn. And that night, on the second to last day of our astrology intensive, learning about all these principles of the houses and the planets, I saw Saturn with my naked eye. I saw the rings. It was the most beautiful and simple thing. The next day, Saturn karma arrived in my life. And when Saturn karma arrives, it's usually us needing to be okay with letting things go. And so during that class, the next day in class, when I was literally studying a Saturn-Venus template in Sonia Harding, this famous ice skater, I think everyone knows Sonia Harding, at least in America. When I was studying her chart, she had this very similar dynamic between Saturn and Venus. And we were talking about that dynamic and her relationship with her father. I thought, interesting, I have that same dynamic, and I have had a very interesting relationship with my father. I checked my phone on break, and my father had passed away that morning. That's Saturn. That is the karma. That is how things manifest in our lives if we're paying attention and if we're receiving intelligently what it is that we need to receive. I'm not saying the more that you study Saturn, the more people are going to pass that you care about, or things are going to dissolve out of thin air. I'm saying these are the principles of Saturn. It's realistic living. It's being in alignment with natural laws of birth, of death, and the cycles in between. That is Saturn. As Saturn rules time, it's the farthest planet away from the sun in the Vedic cosmology, and Saturn is the son of the sun. And because of that, and because of some other reasons I won't go into, he's separated from his father. And so any separation you've had from your parents, especially your father, if you have a strong Saturn placement, even Saturn Sun placements in your chart, you may really understand what I'm talking about. That you've had to really let go of whatever situation, whatever karmas, whatever relationship dynamics you've had with your parents, with those who have taken care of you, even if it's been educators, authority figures. For me, I constantly have dreams about a certain dance teacher who is an authority figure for myself. I have a Saturn-Moon conjunction, so looking more into authority figures that nourished me in a feminine level. So Saturn rules karma, rules cause and effect, natural beginnings and endings, responsibilities, restrictions, and he allows us to persevere when things get trialsome and difficult, and when things take way, way longer than we ever expected. When a court case takes, instead of 1 year, it takes 5 years. When a divorce takes a decade instead of 2 years. When a separation is involving all aspects of your life and really causing some suppressed energy to occur in your body and in your field that It's hard for you to go after your dreams and your visions. This is Saturn. Saturn is known as a teacher who moves slowly. And so these are slow-moving lessons and energies that we receive throughout our life through Saturn. And that is why when Saturn moves into a new sign, it's privy, as the alchemist and the way shower that you are, to take note of what these lessons are, what they could actually manifest in your life, and how to prepare for them by really preparing your emotional and spiritual body. Specifically, what's important and why it's timely I'm doing this Saturn in Aquarius masterclass now instead of a few months from now or a year later from now, is when Saturn, when it's at the very last degree of a sign, the very beginning of the sign, that is when we feel it the most. So Saturn was in the last degree of Capricorn earlier in this year. I believe it was January 8th. He was at 29 degrees Capricorn. And so starting that week, I know a lot of you felt some shifts and some major just tower card type of experiences, of delays, of annoyances. That's literally 4 days later, my plane got to plane on my way to Costa Rica. Epic Saturn delay of, this is not happening right now. Sorry, but it's not happening. And I had the choice, by the way, to force it, to say, no, actually, I'm going to still make it. I'm going to stretch myself. I'm going to find the right flights, book the next plane out in a few days. I'm going to force myself. I'm going to be late to my training. And I knew, working with my Saturn, that is not the way. That is not the natural flow of my life. If it was taken away, I needed to respect that and let my trip have a good death. So let me know if you emphasize with that, or if something's been happening the past month, because again, when Saturn's at the last degree and the beginning degree, which is at the beginning degree for another, I think, 5 days or so, we really feel the effects of karma, particularly where our planets are in relationship to the transiting Saturn. And let me check comments here. I felt that one. Yay, preach. Yes, I appreciate Saturn too. Powerful the ways of planetary initiation show up in our lives. Absolutely. Wow, yes, meme. I won't share that, but yes. So ultimately, Saturn allows us to develop strength, fortitude, resiliency. All pop culture type of Instagram meme says is what we essentially are doing when we go to therapy, right? We're developing resiliency, emotional resiliency. But as entrepreneurs and soulpreneurs, we need an extreme level of emotional resiliency. Not only emotional resiliency, but financial resiliency. And that type of resiliency is part of the staying power of Saturn, with Saturn ruling the 10th house of career and the 11th house of gains from career. So if you want staying power in your work, in your sacred service as a soul entrepreneur, and you want to have gains also from that, you don't want to be breaking even. You don't always want to be investing in programs and mentors and masterminds and then zero account bank statements, or close to zero. You don't want to be bottoming out. This is the remedy. It's to work with Saturn. And at the end of this transmission, I'll be showing remedial ways in which you can work from Saturn from the Vedic astrological level, which are very generic. Okay, I'll say that. They're very generic. I can only go as far as speaking about the dynamics of Saturn and what is, appropriate to discuss a baseline idea of how Saturn dynamics will manifest. But in your chart, it's going to be very unique. But this is just general potent information that I'm sharing with you. And as you know, Saturn also asks us to choose instead of react to difficult circumstances, to choose and respond to circumstances, to difficulties, to frustrations, to delays, instead of reacting in a place of suffering, of pity, a place of frustration, a place of negativity. No, Saturn doesn't want us to ruminate on the past, although it can be very easy to do that. Very, very easy to do that if we have been hurt, have been harmed, and we're still moving through the victim picture in our energy. Very easy to do that. And if you're in that energy, that is okay. What I'm sharing with you now is that you have choice. You have choice to be the victor, because Saturn wants you to be great. And you stepping into your Dharma allows us to choose a higher octave Saturn and to really elevate the planetary energy of each planet that we have in our chart through working with Saturn. Saturn is the root to many of the other planets, if not all. And so by elevating our relationship to Saturn in the dynamics and the archetypes and the principles I'm talking about today, other things will start to move and gracefully just lift in your life. So I hope that makes sense. I see Amanda has a question. What to do about when we are the ones delaying things ourselves? Sort of procrastination, but deeper and larger level, not accepting our truth. That's a great question. I think I'm understanding it, Amanda. So when we are delaying things ourselves, it can be from a myriad of reason. It can be one, our nervous system is not ready for what it is that we're stepping into. And so it's trying to protect us. It's trying to give us, hey, honey, you're not ready for that. That's totally okay. Other ways are when we're delaying things, it could be stuck energy of not feeling good enough to do something, not having enough time, not having enough energy or resources, comparing yourself and your socioeconomic status. Saturn rules lower classes, if you will, or lower, people in society. And these are harsh terminology, pardon me. There's probably a more elegant way to say things, but it's Saturn in the field, and he can be very direct and harsh. But we could be comparing ourselves based on our socioeconomic template. So feelings of scarcity, feeling like I can never go up the social ladder, or I can never invite the abundance that I want in my life. Sometimes that can delay us doing what we want to do because we have some fears around that, and also fears of not being accepted by our tribe. That's a very Aquarius thing too, which is very interesting to note. Fears of being isolated, feeling rejected, feeling betrayed because we have a different vision than the people around us. That is quintessential Aquarius. It's like the unicorn archetype, the rebel, the alien at the dinner table. Hello, I get it. So that's what I'm sensing could be part of the delay. And as far as not accepting your truth, what feels scary to accept that truth? What feels intimidating to accept that truth? How can you begin to accept your truth little by little? It's a muscle we often have to develop, right? Of knowing who we are, accepting who we are, knowing that this is your truth and this is part of you. And sometimes just saying, this is my truth, I will move on from my life knowing my truth, that type of black and white, like all or nothing, that's actually a shadow of Aquarius. So I think what's coming through is that to slowly accept your truth, slowly emotionally digest your truth so that your nervous system can be on board with that truth. Because sometimes we're giving God's inspiration, Spirit's inspiration of this is your mission, this is what you're going to be doing in this life. That's often part of the spiritual awakening, when we wake up to being one with everything, and then we realize we just want to offer our service to the world. And that can trigger actually a martyr complex. It can trigger like an insurmountable feeling of responsibility that isn't human to perform. We are not Jesus's performing miracles, although many would like us to be that for some way, or our own psyche is trying to compensate for that because we want the recognition, or we just want the power, even though it looks like performing acts of service and kindness. So really looking at your ego there and looking at places in which you can slowly integrate your truth, and it doesn't have to be this all or nothing type of electric Aquarius energy. At times it's appropriate, but there's something with Saturn being in Aquarius where it's like, integrate that truth, integrate that electric insight, stay with it, stay humble, and be with all that is as you're accomplishing the myriad unsexy tasks that you have to do every day to really put, form into functionality. Okay, let's see here. Yes, to resilience, big breath. You're feeling so many good reliefs. Yay. Colleen's been a big one. Slowing down, allowing space to respond from awareness when there are triggers. Yes. 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 Mm-hmm. So in terms of the Saturn archetype, Saturn is considered an old man with a sickle. And Saturn rules the elderly. And so anytime we're feeling ungrounded or we're feeling Like, we need some good medicine, working with people who are older than us, or working with people who have insight into Saturn principles of life, or who carry that type of wisdom of knowing about the laws of cause and effect. Usually people who've been through the ringer of some sort early on and have matured and grown from it is a very Saturnian principle that they carry. But helping the elderly and receiving from the elderly, helping the wise ones and receiving from the wise ones, is very much a Saturn archetype. And actually in the Vedic cosmology, Shiva, or Supreme Consciousness or God, is also considered Saturn. So if you ever chanted to Shiva, if you've ever connected to Om Namaha Shivaya, you're also connecting to Saturn. And know that that's a chant actually you can do to lift the energy of Saturn in your life and to stay committed to who you are and to your healing. Ultimately, we understand deeper materialistic restrictions on nature and just the nature of existence in and of itself through the trials and through the difficulties that Saturn shows us in our life. And I know we've all had trials and tribulations, and we've all learned to, heal through that, and especially continuously know how to respond and not to lean into our natural defense mechanism, for instance, like suppression or regression, pushing things away or subconsciously denying that something has happened. Fantasizing, wishful thinking, this is also a defense mechanism. Disassociation or intellectualization, which I feel are very similar at some times. Many of us on this call are heady and brilliant thinkers. We got to have a good mind to express ourselves in marketing and language and in our businesses. So sometimes a part of coping with reality or coping with Saturn is to intellectualize situation or to hyperanalyze or to avoid situations by using our mind instead of dropping into our heart and dropping into the acceptance of what is. So just notice at any time you're feeling threatened in your life, if you are privy to any one of those defense mechanisms I just shared, because Saturn rules these defense mechanisms. Are you going into a fantasy world? Are you disassociating from your body? Are you denying something by repressing or suppressing? Are you avoiding a situation or a person completely? And also, are you somaticizing? So are you picking up energy issues in your body, like a hurt knee? Saturn rules the knees and the legs. Are you having a pulled hamstring, for instance, and something showing, for instance, shingles? A teacher of mine had shingles once, and she discovered through hypnosis that the shingles was actually telling her that she needed to let go of the past in order to walk forward and move on. So all those Louise Hay type of instructions of medical anomalies that show up in your body, they also can be part of your Saturnian healing journey as well. Let's look at the comments here. Amanda, oh, I'm so glad I tapped into that. Meadow, interesting, last Friday I did a 3-day flash sale that was so electric and successful. Yes, that's very Aquarian. That's so divine. And Meadow, knowing you personally, you have put so much hard work and you have such just divine foundations in your business. You have appeased Saturn in your business over and over again. So that also gives way to have these electric type of insights. And let's do the flash sale. Let's do that because you have such a grounded, cultivated business back end and systems. And I know you specialize in that too through Kajabi. So that's wonderful to hear. Colleen, I'm calling it out, allowing the truth to continue to bubble up to the surface. Yes. Aaron, you're feeling this. Have to ask for what I need. Yep, that's Saturn. Yep, being in your worth, asking for what I need. Oh, love you too, Aaron. Appease Saturn, yes. Sitting with your spiritual teacher too. Yeah, this is part of Saturn, and being with breath practices like Kundalini, Kriyas, or just Wim Hof breath practices, or even 7 counts inhaling, holding for 7 counts, and then exhaling for 7 counts, or doing it for 3 counts, 3, 3, 3, inhaling for 3 counts, holding 3, exhaling 3, all the breath patterns that we can do when we're sitting in traffic, when we're on the bus, when we're on a walk, talking with people, listening to people. Activating that breath and that prana is also nourishing and stabilizing our nervous system. so that we can really listen and that we can really hear, and we can create this calm, cultivated state of presence, which is appeasing Saturn. Britt, any advice for going into my second Saturn return? I'm feeling nervous. The first one was brutal. Second Saturn returns are usually easier, Britt, in general, because the cycle of our first Saturn return essentially is Saturn moving through all the 12 signs and coming back to the first sign, that first 28 to 30 years of our life. So we're getting Saturn going through all those layers of our life, our first life, first house of our body, our personality, the second house of family, healing our speech, healing our finances, third house of courage, of skillfulness, of activity, fourth house of home, emotions, mom. So Saturn's cruising through all of those when we come to our Saturn return. So we've been initiated fully. So when our second Saturn return comes up, you get to see how you have experienced that second chapter. So between now and where you were in your first Saturn return, take stock on what the primary lessons that you have worked through and have come to a deeper self-understanding of yourself. With the second Saturn return, it's often a really wonderful opportunity to dedicate yourself to the next 28 years of your life. And that's going to be essentially the croning phase of your life, of the elder phase, of the maturation, of what it means and looks like to be a conscious elder in a community or in a culture that, in the most part, outside of our beloved nets of conscious community, doesn't honor, doesn't recognize, doesn't have a rite of passage for that. So anything you can do as an elder kind of crone, rite of passage, a wisdom passage for yourself, that'll also be really helpful for this Saturn return. But yeah, there'll be many shifts, things that you will essentially have to let go of, and foundations that will probably change or really deepen in a really beautiful way. Okay. Colleen, time to pick up the Soba Kriya again. Yes, Soba Kriya, that is amazing Kriya for Jupiter and Moon. Highly recommend that, Kundalini Kriya. So other energies with Saturn and Aquarius. So this dual aspect of Aquarius, it represents two aspects also of the creative process. So not only of looking in the past and looking forward, but also recognizes the total dissolution of the past, the annihilation of the past, and rebirthing of a new beginning. So know if you're in the middle of that, you don't have to choose one or the other. You can be that living, walking paradox of being in both realms, of taking care of your family or your children from a marriage that actually has dissolved and you're no longer a part of that dynamic, while also bringing in your new business idea of cultivating your 6-7 figure business and the relationship that you actually desire. You don't have to completely burn up the past. You can be in that sort of pivot zone. And that's the beauty, the magic, the high alchemy of Aquarius, is that radical transformation is actually this deep integration. And the way, again, to balance that is through the breath and through practice, and also turning yourself into more of a spiritual direction. Because the 11th house that's ruled by Aquarius is a house of karma. It rules desire and how we find fulfillment. And so that type of fulfillment and desire, often when we get that on a material level, it's not as satisfying as we thought. And so the idea is to bring more spiritual energy and spiritual direction into your life, especially in the next 2.5 years with Saturn and Aquarius, and bring in that knowledge that is going to help you on the path, despite what your numbers are in your business, or what your income levels are, or what your investments are doing, what crypto is doing. Crypto is a very Aquarius energy. So does that make sense of the energy between Saturn that's ruling the 10th house of career, of Arta, it's called, which is money, which is means, and the 11th house that Saturn also rules, which is Aquarius, which is our desire and our wishes being fulfilled from the work that we've done in our 10th house, and how Saturn wants us to have both, and also wants us to not be particularly attached to them, but to be working hard towards both of those dynamics and goals within both of those houses. let me know. I can go more into that if you'd like clarification. And finally, I'd love to mention that, yes, Aquarius is a sign of the futurist, and it's a sign of the individual being merged with the collective, the individual being part of something much larger, and really pursuing how you can be engaged with the people around you with similar ideas and similar visions, connecting the waters of the collective conscious. I like to think of Aquarius. But it's also a beautiful sign of intuition. And some of the most profound intuitives I've met and trainings I've received from certain intuitives or clairvoyants, they're so great at what they do because they are ultimately detached about how they're receiving the information, what the information is, and whether it's completely correct or incorrect. They're just detached. So ways in which you can listen by opening up your channels of perception and your intuitive faculties while ultimately not giving too much weight to it. That also is that dance of Aquarius of, ooh, I got all this knowledge, or ooh, I got all this juicy insight and dynamics from Brooke, and ooh, you know what? I'm just going to open. I'm going to open up to see if that is true, if that is a part of my manifestation, or I'm going to actually choose something differently. So that's all I'm going to say about Aquarius for now. Okay, Colleen, yes, you've been feeling that deep the past few weeks, embarking on a year-long womb awakening apprenticeship, deepening in the masculine structures, financial resiliency. Yes, yes, yes. Deep integration of those two, absolutely. And again, Saturn's so powerful because he rules the 10th house and the 11th house, which are parts of the highest kind of positions of our placements when we're looking at the birth chart. Like, they are the point in the heavens that are highest reaching, and that's why it's considered career, public image, ambition. Our 10th house, typically 11th house and 9th house as well. But it's knowing that the 10th and the 11th are the last houses of Arta, which is the 10th house. The Arta houses, which rules money and resources, are the 2nd house, the 6th house, and finally the 10th house. So again, it's like the accumulation of all the wealth, the resources that you've understood and built so that you can have a career and you can be in your purpose and be in your dharma. And also the 3rd, 7th, and 11th houses, which are the Kama houses, the houses of desire, of meeting your fulfillments, of enjoying life, pleasure, romance, things like that. That's the 11th house. And so Aquarius ruling the 11th house, it's like, yeah, we're going to have permission to play now. It's okay to work hard and play hard. Yes, absolutely. Saturn Aquarius is wishing this for all of us. So, okay. Oh, Meadow, my divine head wisdom is so electric. Projector lighthouse. Oh, thanks, babe. Yes, me and Aquarius ascendant Capricorn. Yep, I'm sure you're relating to this. And also because this visionary energy of Aquarius and the 11th house, when we're not living in our Saturn energy, this is a good check to note if you're in alignment with your Saturn energy. When you're not living in your Saturn energy, our vision is typically foggy in some way. And so if you have moments in your life, I certainly had a foggy first couple weeks of this year, and I knew why. Saturn was at the last degrees of a sign, beginning of the degrees. It's this karmic knot. And my vision was foggy. It was like, what the heck am I supposed to be doing for the rest of the year? How am I going to work my business this chapter? What's going on? And I was just foggy. What did I do? I got back into mantra practice. I got back into a evening routine and a morning routine. I started to do cleanses. I started to do fasting more seriously. And that, by appeasing Saturn, gave me my vision back. So again, just know these are ways in which you can balance the energy and the flow of your life force by being in integrity with your Saturn. And of course, the more that you know where your Saturn placement is, which, by the way, I'll let you know now that I'm going to be offering Saturn mini readings for the next week, in which we go deep into your Saturn energy in your chart and really kind of bust through any glass ceilings you have around what is possible for you, and also heal and let go of some things that are ready to be brought with loving awareness, these are going to be super potent, super powerful 45-minute Saturn astrology sessions. I'll be dropping the link here later at the end of this or right after I get off. Also, too, I know there can be a lot of illusions about gains, especially in the coaching industry and what people are making, how they're making their money, how fast they're making the money. And I want you to be aware of those illusions, because those illusions of the coaching world of it's easy to do this, just sign up, you'll get your $15,000 client immediately, things like this. Sometimes that sort of emphasis on those big monies and big explosive wins can also be preventing us from being in alignment with our intuitive discernment, which is our Saturn. So again, things that are creating fog, whether it's comparison, whether it's scrolling and rolling around on social media and comparing yourself, even if you're not doing it consciously, the subconscious hears and it picks up everything. So just being really aware of where you're putting your energy and how you're putting your energy in certain spaces. If you have a mentor that you've absolutely loved and you've resonated with and you're like, oh my gosh, yes, and then all of a sudden you stop resonating, take a break. Absolutely follow your body, follow your intuition, and take a break. Take spaciousness, because that's going to work your Saturn energy and bring you back to self. Yes to mantra medicine. Yes, Kay. Elisa, yay. Meadow, not easy. It takes time and effort. Absolutely. Don't fall for the illusions. Absolutely. Yeah, and be realistic with the time that it takes to do anything and to be great at anything, right? There's all these quick hacks that we learn, and especially because we have AI and technology to make quick hacks. Sometimes for anyone, it just depends. Those quick hacks can take much longer than what someone else is able to do. So really being okay with having limitations. That was something that I emphasized about in my Saturn masterclass in July, and healing the father wound, is being really okay with your limitations and being really aware of those limitations. So when you're signing on to something, you're not expecting yourself to have a massive transformation, when actually that's an area in your life that you're like, yeah, I'm just learning how to sing. I'm not going to, go to an audition for opera anytime soon. I might participate, go to the community church and sing and things like this. Okay, great, but I'm not just going to throw myself into the opera. So being realistic with what you're able to execute as well is very much a Saturn energy. And Saturn doesn't want us to bypass the work. And when Saturn is moving slowly, 2.5 years through each sign, it has so much impact on culture, on society, and things that we get to reconcile with, and things that get to be reborn. And so this is the perfect time, and I've seen people already doing this a lot, of really standing in your truth about your industry, of what you feel like is the direction that we're going, of what you've learned and what actually you received as an insight, or what your just intuitive nature is saying, hey, this isn't working anymore, and let's go in this direction, because things are constantly changing, of course, but knowing that this is a really beautiful time to not be aloof, to not be detached, to not be stubborn or closed-mindedness about, the crap that you've been through in your industry or in your business or with clients. This is not the time to focus on that. The time is to be innovative, and to, even if you have to rebel against any closed-mindedness or any kind of self-righteous energy you may have, and to put yourself out there. The shadow of Aquarius is also being aloof and sort of like, I don't want to deal with society kind of thing. Like, this is too much to handle, being such an alchemist of paradoxes. You don't need to take that card. Take the card of the alchemist of electric change, and that's going to lead you into so much abundance and prosperity, which again, the water pouring back and forth, that's prana moving, chi, life force energy moving back and forth. When Saturn gets stagnant in Ayurvedic medicine, that's when we have issues in the body. Usually it's a vata imbalance, but even traditional medicine, Indian medicine, knows that certain planets have connections to our meridians and channels. And so when something is stagnant, something is going to be stagnant in the life as well. Realistic expectations. Yay! Meadow would love a Saturn reading. Colleen, you've been reading the book Indistractable this week. Very nice. All the energy leaks that happen with our time and energy. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Indistractable. That's such a good title. Ooh, I love that. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, I have some information that when you get a Saturn reading with me, know that I'm not just looking at your Saturn placement and where Saturn is transiting your house, but I'm looking at Saturn aspects. In Vedic astrology, Saturn aspects the third house, the seventh house, and the 10th house away when you count inclusively. And so when you get a personal reading with me, I'll be able to share what Saturn is exactly finessing and cultivating opportunities for you to recommit and for you to heal, for you to shift, for you to let go of. And look at what's going to be confronting you, right? What limitations are going to be up in your face and how you're going to be okay with them. Saturn doesn't approach things like Mars and wants to fight and wants to kind of power play. Saturn has a kind of observational effect on reality of like, this is a limitation, this is what's happening, let me breathe, let me drop into my heart. Okay, what am I going to choose? It's more of a contemplative planet, as it's considered a very slow-moving planet. So things slow down, the nervous system slows down, the mind slows down. Anytime you can slow down the mind, not rush things, create more spaciousness, this is also cultivating really great Saturn energy. The other thing that can happen when you have Saturn transits going on, and not only Saturn transiting your natal chart or a Saturn return, or being in your Saturn dasha, but smaller periods like a Saturn bhukti. This is more Vedic astrology terminology. It can feel like you're losing your religion at times. It can create a lot of self-doubts. And with that, it can create someone that is a little more antisocial and someone that, may be questioning their spirituality and their relationship to God and divine and the source. So know if that ever comes up in your life, that's totally okay. That's just Saturn poking at you and saying, hey, what do you believe in? What are you going to believe in? Are you okay to not have a belief? Are you okay to not have a judgment, an opinion about a certain situation? Are you okay not to respond to a fiery post on Facebook that has something to do with a personal experience you had with someone, or, fill in the blank? Are you okay with being in that in limbo space? When I had a really big Saturn transit when I was 19, for instance, that was a time when I did lose my faith, and it cultivated a deeper questioning about my relationship to God. And it was triggered by my father getting diagnosed with terminal cancer and then getting sent to prison within my first year of college. And that was Saturn essentially probing me and poking me to look within and to be okay with this huge karmic snafu happening when my life was rapidly changing, of living away from home, being in American college educational systems at a big university, right? There's a lot to handle, a lot of responsibility, which is what Saturn rules, is responsibility. But know that even with extra responsibilities that you're taking on in your life, Saturn is essentially going to bless you. It's going to bestow you with blessings if you're open to it, even during pain. And there's ways in which you can open yourself to the blessing energy of Saturn, even during the most tumultuous and upsetting pain and those disruptive forces that just happen from time to time in our life. Okay, let's see here. Wordsmithery is intoxicating. Yay, I'm on a good wordsmithery day. That's so great. Okay, so we got about 5 minutes left here, and I know I mentioned about Venus and Saturn and that relationship dynamic. That's really important to understand. So the key to Saturn, when we're looking at ways in which we can approach it with more abundance, more optimism, more kind of a positive outlook when we're needing that, when we're ready for that, when we're not choosing a positive, optimistic outlook because it's easier to choose that rather than deal with the pain or take up extra responsibility or finish the task or send the email or deal with an upsetted client of some sort. When we're ready to invoke that love, that optimism, that's when we're ready to balance out the work with Venus, with play, with love, with romance, with self-nourishment, with body care. Saturn has been with Venus this entire week, and Venus needs structure. Saturn, in order to really have fun and to really have a satisfying, playful life that's flowing. And so with Saturn being connected in conjunction, it's called, with Venus and Aquarius, it's really about responsibly choosing your friendships, as Aquarius does rule friendships as well. Responsibly choosing your friendships, your network circle, because there could be some level of responsibility or setback occurring if you're not in the aligned circles, not in good company. But essentially you'll be able to benefit with long-standing relationships, long-standing Saturn relationships, Venus, if you are in good company. And so if you feel like you haven't been in good company, and actually that may be one of the energy leaks, that the people around you aren't your best company, that aren't encouraging you to step into your responsibility, your greatness, that are not respecting your boundaries, who are calling you, who are staying on the phone when you're saying, hey, I really gotta go, who are, feeling kind of needy and not really understanding what is your energy and what you're here doing as a visionary. This is something to reflect with Saturn and Venus being together this week. As Saturn is kind of this rugged energy, this responsible energy, and Venus is more of the opulent, pleasure-seeking, nature-loving planet, wants to take care of the earth, wants to nourish as others. And again, just knowing that if you have any setbacks or delays in friend circles or networks, this is also something that may be going on this week with Saturn and Venus being together. And if you have Saturn and Venus in Aquarius in your natal birth chart, that also might be a karmic restriction you've noticed your whole life, that there have been setbacks or actually really great long withstanding relationships, good company you've been blessed with, just depending on the condition of your planets. In general, once you're working with the esoteric principles of Saturn and Venus, you're really working realistically towards relationships. So know if you're wanting to call in a love, if you're wanting to call in some amazing dates for Valentine's Day or recommit to your partner, recommit with the planetary elements of Saturn and Venus, and that's going to create some amazing long-term results and sustainability. So I just wanted to share that little Saturn-Venus secret because Valentine's Day is coming up, and I know with all this heavy energy, it's like, where can I bring in more love? Where can I bring in more expression and connection and belonging? And knowing that, at the root of most of our healing is just this deep need to belong. And so finding ways in which you can belong more to yourself by doing the things that you are self-committed to doing, by seeing yourself in the future, taking that futurist card of Aquarius and saying, this is where I'm going. So how do I need to commit to myself on the day-to-day in order to get there? What does that look like right now? How can I give myself the grace to get better at this while not putting too much on my plate or forcing myself into pretzels because I read this book and it said this is the most prosperous way and the most aligned way to have a 3-day work week or whatever, right? Look at places where you've learned kind of backwards way to manage your time, manage your energy, manage your mindset that actually aren't appropriate right now in your lifetime. Okay, and so lastly, as we wrap up here, Saturn remedies, as I mentioned. I'm glad everyone's feeling it. Yeah, future pacing, love that. So Saturn remedies, besides the Shiva mantra I mentioned, also working with Ganesha, the elephant god, who is also very playful, fairy, and strong wisdom keeper, a dharmic guide, and also volunteering with the elderly, as I mentioned, fasting, breathwork, Kriya, meditation. Those are all things that will help your Saturn energy. So, oh my gosh, I'm at the hour. I can't believe I got all of that in. Let me know if there's any final questions. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here, and everyone who's watching the replay this week or later on. So excited to have you. And yeah, I'm available for Vedic astrological readings, for my Saturn mini readings that are $150. And also I have a subconscious breakthrough session, which is essentially a ceremonial therapeutic hypnosis session where we look at your Saturn placement and then we go into what you would like to shift from the subconscious and emotional level in order for you to create more time, to create more energy, to create more momentum and more motivation in your life. so you can commit to the vision that you have in your business, for your relationship, for your entire life. Because we all need help with blind spots, and that's the beauty of working with Saturn. It's realizing, shit, I have blind spots. Let me accept support from the universe. And noticing where in our body and where in our physical reality where we're feeling blocked, where literally we're coming up against walls and layers that are not able to be lifted easily. So again, any feelings of not like feeling like you don't have enough knowledge, especially Aquarius. Aquarians love to accumulate knowledge, so often it can be a compensation of I'm just going to accumulate more knowledge, and not put anything into form and functionality. Been there, hello, calling myself out. And also not feeling like you have the know-how, not feeling confident in the skill set and the awareness that you have right now. That's a common block. And also, again, not enough energy, not enough time, and not enough networks or not enough ways in which you're being supported by other fellow visionaries, and feeling like this hasn't manifested so far, or I've had so much difficulty in aligning myself with groups or people who are on the same page. It doesn't work out for me. It'll never work out for me. Any of those beliefs that you're picking up in your field, even family network of I don't have support systems. I don't have those roots. Any of those type of blocks or self-limitations or literal reality that is happening in your life, any of these sessions are going to be really beneficial for that. So I definitely encourage you to jump in next week for a Saturn session, or an in-depth Vedic astrological reading, or a subconscious breakthrough session that's really about liberating your Saturn. Amanda, you are welcome. Yasmin, yes. Ganesh, breathwork, powerful transmission. Yay. Phil, you're welcome. Oh, many blessings, everyone. I think that is going to be all for today. I am, let's see here, just double checking on my computer if there's anything lastly or any last questions, if anyone wants to share, or any big takeaways that feels like this hit me the strongest. I'm going to implement that, or I'm going to change something in my life in the next few days or in the next week. Love to hear those as well. Otherwise, let's see here. Great. I'm going to drop those links. And as I drop those links, I'm just going to clear the energy that we stirred today. We definitely stirred the cauldron pots of Aquarius, those two pots called kumbhas. And I'm just going to chant Om Gam Ganapate Namaha 4 times, as actually Ganesh rules the number 4. So anytime you work with Ganesh, you don't have to necessarily do a full mala of 108 beads. You can actually do any sets of 4. So you can do 4, 8, 12, 16, so on. So I'm just going to chant Om Gam Ganapate Namaha. Om Gam Ganapate Namaha. Om Gam Ganapate Namaha. Om Gam Ganapate Namaha. May all beings be blessed. May all beings be at peace. May all beings be free. Okay. Beautiful. Ciao, everyone.